Hey, so I just filmed a video and I knew I needed to film 2 videos today, so I changed my lipstick color and put on my glasses and changed my shirt to film this video, and I feel so ridiculous, but then I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna change everything back. So this is just, it's happening like this. Okay, enough. Okay, so in this video I wanted to talk about what it's like to live in the city of Amsterdam. I've lived here now for around 8 months and I'm getting ready to leave. When I lived in Florence, Italy, I made a video about my favorite things of living there, whatever. But this is not, living here wasn't the best experience, not because of the city, just because of my situation. So I don't really have enough positive things to say about Amsterdam to make a video talking about my favorite things. So I thought I'll just talk about all of the things, just all the things, one video. So the first thing about Amsterdam, if you've never been here, Amsterdam is so inexplicably charming. Cities, in my opinion, have a personality, and maybe you agree with that, or maybe you think I am out of my mind, but the personality, the vibe of Amsterdam is just so charming. Something about it just as soon as people come here, they don't want to leave. Also, the vibe in the city is so much more casual than the other European cities I've been to. The vibe and the style. You aren't really gonna see people literally in their pajamas like you would in the United States, but it's still a lot more casual than living in Italy or just the other cities that I've visited. It's just more casual vibes here. I want to talk about the accommodation, living here. So since I was an au pair, my flat was already arranged for me by the family, so I didn't really have to do any hunting or whatever. I will say it's very, very hard to find somewhere to live, just from talking to my friends. Everyone wants to live here, so it's outrageously expensive. The average, the cheapest that you could find for a single room and shared accommodation is probably gonna be $500. I would be shocked if you found something less than that, maybe $450, but 500 is really the normal for one room. Because of the buildings, how they're set up, the apartments are usually very awkward. The layout is weird and the rooms are small and the apartments are small. But if you can deal with that, good. As far as transportation goes and how to get around the city, you probably have heard that Amsterdam is known for its bikes, and definitely I would say without a doubt bikes are the fastest and easiest way to get anywhere. And if you want to live here, you have to have a bike. That's just plain simple. And when you buy a bike, you need to buy a lock that is twice as expensive as your bike, because otherwise you won't have a bike anymore. Another thing I would say is do not leave your bike unlocked, even if you think you're just running into a store or something, even if there's no ifs. Always lock your bike to something, lock it to something that cannot be removed, and don't lock the front wheel because that can just come off very easily. So try to lock the body of your bike to something like a tree or a bike stand, something that's not going to be easily removed. Also, something that I wanted to say, if you're not Dutch, you are going to see people doing everything imaginable on bikes, and it just becomes normal. When I first moved here, I was laughing hysterically because you see people walking their dogs on their bike, or riding bikes and holding hands, or riding a bike with no hands and just searching their back pockets for their phone, or texting on their bike, or holding giant shopping bags in both hands while cycling. Just everything you can imagine. It's normal here and it's very weird at first, but eventually you get used to it. And like I said, I was an au pair, so I had a huge cargo bike, and it would be full of kids, and at first I was what am I gonna do? This isn't normal. It got normal. Riding a bike is just normal now. Whenever I move back to the United States, I'm gonna buy a bike the first thing, because who needs cars? Also, the tram system is really good. I live right near a stop for the 24 and the 5, which I feel are both, I'm really well connected. So sometimes when it's raining, and I'll get to the weather later, I take the tram. So I take it more often than I should, really. Just because sometimes when it's raining, when it's storming, I don't want to be on my bike. I just don't want to be on it. So I take the tram, even though it would probably be faster just to get wet and go out in my bike. Oh, and another thing that's good about this country specifically, not just Amsterdam, is the national trains, as far as I know, don't, like, the prices don't fluctuate like in other places. So if you buy your ticket to go to like another city, I don't know, if you buy your ticket to go to another city in the Netherlands, if you buy it like 5 minutes before, it's the same price as if you bought it like 2 months before. Like, it doesn't matter. That's great because you can just say, oh, today I feel like going to some other city and exploring there, and you don't have to plan in advance. Like, it's not going to be outrageously expensive if you buy it at the last minute. It's the same price. Okay, let's talk about the weather. So the weather here, by most people's standards, is not very good. It rains a lot. Like, there are some times that it'll be 3 weeks and you won't even see the sun for those 3 weeks. Every single day it rains. I like rainy weather, so that never really bothered me. I don't really like cycling in it, but there are ways around that. Buy a raincoat if you want to live here. One thing that's really good about the city is that there are so many parks. Yeah, there's a lot. It's not like when I lived in Italy and I felt like I forgot what the color green was. Like, I see grass every day. I go and like hang out in a park every day. The Amsterdam's forest is really nice. It's kind of on the outskirts of the city, so I don't know, I feel like it's not a very touristy area, but there's a lot to do there, so. Green spaces. One thing I want to say about Amsterdam that's not really very nice is that I feel like it's very dirty. I don't know, Florence is like known for being like a really clean city, so maybe I'm like comparing and it's not fair, but I feel like it's really dirty here. I feel like I see trash on the street all the time that like doesn't get picked up for like a few days. The canals aren't clean. Like, I've seen more than one person peeing into the canals. It's just not a very clean city. It doesn't like smell horrible or anything. Like, it just, I don't know. It's just not the cleanest city I've ever lived in. We'll say that. Safety. So, in my opinion, Amsterdam is a very, very safe city to live in. I've never felt unsafe here. Even if I'm walking alone at night, I don't feel unsafe. Honestly, like, the most dangerous thing is probably tourists that like went too hard, and like then you see them like stumbling around, and maybe avoid them. But other than that, it's a really safe city. I don't really ever get like catcalls. Maybe if I'm like in the center, like people will be like, they'll say something, but it's really rare. And one time, a man who was clearly like not sober, I was like walking one way and he was walking the other way, and he like stumbled by and like grabbed my chest and just like kept walking. And I was walking alone, and I wasn't really gonna fight with this like guy that was high out of his mind, but like I wouldn't really say like one instance means the city's not safe. In my opinion, it's a really safe city regardless of that. So, and there aren't a lot of, I don't know, I've never seen any panhandlers or like beggars. Like, I think the Netherlands has really good social welfare, so like they don't get a lot of that. Pickpocketing can happen, but like there are other cities where like I was there for a week and like every single day someone would try to pickpocket me or try to like steal my phone. Here, not so much. Obviously, I'm still, it's not the United States, so I still have like my crossbody and I still like keep my hand over my bag, but it's just like a little bit more, I feel more relaxed about it here than I would in Italy or in other European cities. The food. So, oh, I'm falling off my chair. Let's just say that the Netherlands is not Italy. The food here is alright, I guess. I've tried a lot of Dutch food and I'm not really fond of it. I don't know, maybe you'll come here and you'll fall in love with the taste of like raw herring, but I'm not about that. And sometimes the family that I live with is French, but sometimes they'll be like, oh, this is a Dutch meal, and like it's never really my favorite, so not so fond of the food. It's just me. Like a lot of people I talk to really like the Dutch food. This area is like known for having good pancakes, and I am the pancake queen, so I'm into that, but some of the other traditional Dutch food, I'm not so much into. But so I want to talk about Dutch people. You got to talk about that. Even though there are a lot of expats living in the city and a lot of immigrants in the city, it's very multicultural, but there are still Dutch people, and if you're moving here, maybe you want to be friends with them, and even if you don't, you're gonna encounter them. So I make it sound like you're gonna encounter them like there's some sort of wild animal. I'm so sorry, that was not nice. Dutch people, my impression of them is that they're extremely friendly, and it's not like in the United States where like if someone's friendly, it's just like normal. It's like if they're friendly with you, it's because they want to be your friend, probably. So in that way, when they're friendly, it's a lot more genuine than like when an American's friendly. It's just like normal. It's just like the culture to say like, hey, how are you, blah blah blah. Dutch people don't really bother with that sort of thing. Like I said in a previous video, they're very direct, almost to the point of like, sometimes I'm not in the mood and like I just want to cry because like I had a normal conversation with a Dutch person, but for me I was like, oh, why can't they be nice? That was too much information. Like, I don't really know how to explain it. Like when I said like, oh, I love it here, like I would stay here forever. Maybe a Dutch person would say, why would you want to stay here? Like, the weather isn't good. Why do you want to stay here? Like, they will just like, they are very genuine and very to the point, and like, I don't know, that wasn't a very good example, and I don't think I'm explaining this really well, but it's just like in their culture and in their language even, their language doesn't really allow for like beating around the bush. So don't be offended if you want to move here, and don't be like turned off by that, because I feel like in general the Dutch are very friendly. It's just like their culture to be like that. And the very last thing I'm gonna mention is like the tourism in Amsterdam. So obviously everyone knows like weed, prostitution, blah blah blah. For me, I lived here for so long. I've lived here for 8 months, and I don't even think about that really. When you're in the center, sometimes you can like smell weed, or if you're in a park, sometimes you see people smoking, but it's kind of like smoking cigarettes. Like, I don't smoke cigarettes in the United States, and I don't really think about people smoking cigarettes. Like, I don't smoke weed here. I don't really think about the fact that it's legal to smoke weed. The weed here is a lot stronger, I guess, so sometimes like tourists who like don't understand will be like just a hot mess and like walking down the street, and it's pretty easy to spot them. It's pretty easy to avoid them, in my opinion. Especially, I live in the South. I live in the Old South. I'm not gonna say any Dutch words because I'm not gonna embarrass myself. So especially since I live a bit out of the center, it's so easy for me to avoid tourists. I feel like when I lived in Italy, sorry, this is like comparing, but Florence is such a small city, and like anywhere I walked, and I lived so central, so anywhere I walked there was a tour group, and like anywhere I walked I was photobombing someone's like family memories. But here it's not like that. It's really easy to like avoid the tourist areas. You don't have to, I never have to go to the red light district for anything. Like, even though I go shopping in the city center or like on the 9 streets, whatever, like it's not, even though there are tourists here, I guess I'm not like so affected by it. So in that way, it's a nice way to live. It's a nice place to live, I guess, in that way. Okay, my camera is running out of memory, so I need to wrap this up. But basically, I just feel like there are a bunch of different neighborhoods here, and like they all have a slightly different vibe, and they all have something you can do that like you can avoid the tourists. It's not like every single place you go is crowded with them. It's very easy to forget, or it's very easy to forget that you live in like an international tourist destination. And like I feel like when I lived in Florence, it was impossible, but here it's good. I think it's slightly better. It's more relaxed, especially since I live out of the city. It's just good. I like it here. Final thoughts. If you want to come here, do it. That was a little bit more aggressive than I wanted it to be, but if you want to come here, do it. There's always a way to make it work. People are really friendly and they will help you stay here. Don't be turned off by Dutch bureaucracy. Don't be turned off by how weird the Dutch language sounds. I know for the first like 4 months I was here, I couldn't even tell when one word stopped and the next word began, but now I can like a little bit understand, especially with the tram stops. And yeah, I would definitely consider coming back here, not as an au pair, but just to live, if that would ever be possible. It's not like my goal or anything. It's not my favorite place I've ever lived. I did enjoy my time here. I know I feel like I had a lot of negative things to say, but I tried to focus on the positive.